Welcome back to the Torque Test channel. Today we put the all-new Bosch mid-torque GDS 18V-330 up against Milwaukee's latest mid-torque, and also against another GDS 18V from years past that looks more high torquey to these eyes. This one's rated 500, the new one 330, but only one of them makes anywhere near that, as we'll come to see. And lastly, to round out our admittedly sometimes rare look at Bosch on the channel today, we have their beastly Pro Factor high torque we'll slap a 12 amp hour battery onto, thanks to our friend Ryan, who also loaned us this older model to see what we can learn there. This is the latest impact from Bosch, and at $219, it's going to draw a lot of comparisons to the red brand over here, going for the same figure. But what's very different between these two models, besides maybe 1/2 of an inch in length, is the Milwaukee Gen 2 is rated for 550 foot-pounds, and this one is only 330. So what gives? This is a 2023 brushless tool from a name brand in power tools after all. Well, for one thing, this new Bosch model is light, 3.5 pounds, which is light, yeah, but with a 21700 cell core battery here, which we use for testing, that's only 4.7 pounds, making it lighter than the Milwaukee with a 5 amp hour or 3 amp hour high output. And in this day and age where mid-torques seem to be excelling in torque, but packing on the pounds along the way, like the DeWalt, definitely the Makitas and LXT and XGT, and a double helping from this Metabo HPT, this is a rare move in the other direction, and one I think fits well for a job site like brand that might focus on user fatigue and all-day use more than other brands might. This being a modern Bosch tool and all, of course, has lots of modes, and those modes are customizable as well by slapping a watch battery into here. So similar to some one key features you'd get like on a Milwaukee, but baked into the cost already. And while we don't often use these other modes around here, this one's mode A out of the box just happens to sort of accidentally be killer as a wheel gun setting. $114, 117, 120 odd foot-pounds of torque. I mean, on your 80 foot-pound Honda, maybe not, but this is the most consistent setting on a gun in this torque range we've seen or ever tested. These numbers borderline clicker-type torque wrenches as far as ANSI specs allow for inconsistency. Even the $375 Chicago pneumatic cordless gun that's an extended anvil specifically for lug nuts and has settings made for tightening lug nuts was not as consistent. It still built torque over time without stopping and was nowhere near the percentage of torque of max that it claimed. This one's so precise I think it must count hammer blows before cutting off each time. You should still use a torque wrench, but just saying, it's not bad. All right, and here's our first 5-second working torque run with the M18 Gen 2. And here's the new Bosch. $282, so far being overshadowed by that Milwaukee a bit. And here's the brushed big boy high torque-ish size model. Let's see that. $273, so in line with the new generation brushless model, definitely showing its age here. Reverse direction is up next though, our 10-second test called Max Torque, a 50-plus-year-old testing process for impact wrenches. Here's the new Bosch taking on Milwaukee again. $397, the Bosch is a bit of a beast in reverse, passing up the Milwaukee with what looks to be some real pace, but flatlining a bit thereafter at the end. And here's the big boy. $458 and still climbing steadily. I mean, as you'd hope at this size, but still more spicy than the mid-torques it's being compared to for sure. Our last 15-second test we call best case scenario. Cordless tools are allowed to do this in forward or reverse. These Bosch boys definitely prefer reverse, so here's that. .451 over 438 with the Milwaukee on top, but pretty close. The Bosch's flatline compared to a 10-second test is more than most. But what we also notice is its hammer spring is very light. Like really light. A low tension spring is either going to be driving a decently sized hammer with less speed into the next dog on the anvil, or require a lighter hammer to drive at decent speed. Usually the result from this type of setup is less strain on the user, as the spring has an equal opposite effect, requiring you to keep it from going all whirly on you. But on this particular guy, didn't really notice that at all. It's at least as lively as an M18, so not a lot gained there. The brushless motor on this guy I think is more than capable of overcoming something spicier up front in the hammer cage. Would love to have seen that. Okay, on to the big dog. .519, okay. Yes, not modern brushless high torque numbers, which we often see in the 700s, maybe low 800s on something crazy, but also more than we're expecting to make in this class of tool. This is actually a great representation of some difference in technology here. You'd think brushed would come out quicker, being somewhat known for higher initial torque, but they use less RPM and less IPM to take advantage of that back in the day. So you see it slower out the gate here with more meaningful gains up top for, 1.5 times the size, with a battery appetite that goes with it, of course, so there's downsides too. On the topic of bigger and more power, the Bosch 12 amp hour battery with those spicy 21700 cells in the Pro Factor high torque that we found to be overall beating the Milwaukee 2767. Let's see that. So yeah, you're probably seeing this as a slight loss over the 8 amp hour, which we saw in person as well. But check this out. This is the column we use to calculate average power, torque per second across the run. Yup, both exactly 608. This tool performs the same with an 8 amp hour 21700 cell pack as it does with a 12 amp hour. So save the weight and run the 8 amp hour that they also recommend for Pro Factor class tools. Okay, on to the ranking, and this is the mid-torque ranking, which the 9.9 inch brush model by far does not meet the requirements of by today's standards, so that will be left off for now. And starting below the 3/8 Milwaukee, which has overall scored best for us compared to the half inch over here, this one's test runs are turned into points as 28, 40, and 44. At 6.6 inches long, it's longer than the shortest mid-torque on the market, but it's under most of them. It gets 66.4 foot-pounds per inch. 330 foot-pounds. My oh my. Yes, of course, there's nut-busting figures you can find in today's Bosch manuals as well, and that's also like 100 to 150 foot-pounds less than the Milwaukee here. But even by old school standards, this column here, max torque, used to be used to rate tools like 30 years ago. A good standard, we felt, and even this is 397. This model should at least be like a GDS 18V-400 or something. Saying 330 and making 438 here makes it the most underrated by the brand impact wrench we've ever tested to date. A trend we often see from European brands like Hilti as well. Here in the States, brands that we gobble up by the truckload, we've gotten a bit overzealous over the years using a TTI type calculator. This guy should be like a GDS 18V-530 or something. But I digress. $219, not cheap, but also makes some beans, and it's lightweight too, 30 points. That totals 308.4, putting it above the heart and just below the latest from the rest of TTI here. If it made more and forward, it would be around equivalent to where the rigid scored here. If you're looking for a lightweight impact that's not going to be a bear to carry around all day and has lots of power, that's this. It being the opposite of nose heavy is also a strange feeling to these hands in this category, so that's nice as well. And obviously, if you already own Bosch batteries, this one's a no-brainer, certainly in the top 2 impacts that they make right now. When you consider how all over the place Bosch has been with their freak lineup of impact drivers that want to be impact wrenches and their torque ratings that go along with them over the generations, the underrating, torque modesty, whatever you want to call, completely shrugging off the arms race of specs these tools live in today, Bosch has hopefully proven that you can lead with a product forward approach. Let the tool do the talking, people will catch on. Unless they sell like none of these, then we're just adding fuel to the fire here by pointing this out, and we can look forward to 800 foot-pounds tightening, 1100 foot-pound nut-busting mid-torques by 2024. Click subscribe to see those Terminators tested. We make stuff like this at least every Friday. Thanks for watching.